Good morning, Saturday coffee moaners. Morning. Morning has broken like the first morning. I don't think any other independent, newsy, kind of chatty kind of things on YouTube sing for you, as well as dance for you, or moan for you. How are we all? How is everyone? It's absolutely stunning, scintillating, crackling, crispy day today. Is it the same way you are? It's absolutely beautiful. We've got a morning of fun and delectation and probably a lot of alcohol this morning. We've got me chatting through the news, or chatting through some views, or chatting through some thoughts raised by the news. And we're also at midday, slightly later today. We're slightly later with this too. Slightly later today, there's going to be Curly Cooks Croydon, joined by the inimitable Lee Peart, who's in the house cooking things up. Thank you, King Bridget. I am a rarity. I feel utterly hungover this morning. It's horrendous. And Nadia, bless her, has...
What was the animal you said I look like? Look
you
at
look
my
like
eyes.
a staffy.
I've swollen up.
You look like a really sweet
I've had an allergic
staffy.
reaction.
What do you think? To me? Do you think
Maybe.
Oh, bless you. You were out for the count last night.
I slept. Do you know how long I slept? 9.5 hours.
9.5 hours?
Maybe that's why my eyes are gone.
Wow, she slept for 9.5 hours.
So watch out.
Oh, God. All right. Dina's en route. Thanks for those of you who joined us in the members area for the Curly Cook Along or the Watch Along. Someone just said, oh, it was a bit... the reason the camera was a bit dodgy was I was having to reach over and change and do the music. So, of course, you can't watch and reach and do all the same things. But it was fun, wasn't it? We made... Oh, my God. And I have to say, I ate the foot, and I've got the footage for you guys of the pesto witch's broomsticks. So if you're listening on podcast, you're like, he's gone mad. What the fuck is he talking about? This is our members area cook along that happens once a month in the members area, and that was last night. And if you want to go and watch it, you can. It's up, it's uploaded. Go and check it out. First time we've got a live this week. Charmaine, welcome, and what a week it's been. Hey, could we be, and we have to ask this, and we have to say this, one of the topics that, and Saturdays, weekends, they are a time for a kind of reflection on what's past. What were the highlights of the week? But also then there's obviously there's sometimes breaking news on the day. And the big news story today we have to talk about is the Epping Hotel, or the Epping Asylum Hotel migrant sex offender. Do you remember that spawned all of the kind of protests and the riots, etc.? Can you actually believe it? He's escaped, or he's got lost. They've lost him whilst being in transit. So that's the biggest story today, is obviously a migrant sex offender essentially on the run with 3 police forces searching for him. I mean, it's such a clusterfuck on so many levels. A, safety to local people, safety to anyone from any kind of alleged or wanted sex offender, but also manna from heaven for anyone who loves that phrase, two-tier care. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the dangerous rubble of Gaza. We're going to talk about the fact that actually the bombing may have principally stopped, though I think 2 Palestinians were killed yesterday in Gaza. Always remember, whenever you hear even tiny numbers of Palestinians dying, think of the outrage there would be if they were Israeli, and then remember and remind yourself that when you then carry on with your cup of coffee and go, well, okay, yeah, moving on. We wouldn't have moved on if it was the other way around. Do you get what I'm saying? Gabrielle, good point. I'll read that out in a second. And we're also going to be talking about, I've got some clips, because another thing we do on this channel is we engage in independent media, we watch it, we consume it, we look at it ourselves. And so I've got quite a few clips here. And one of the big themes of this week, it seems to me, is a lot of people asking questions about whether America can ditch its long-held connection and support of Israel, AIPAC, Israeli influence, and all the rest of it. And then for a bit of light, frothy silliness, we're going to talk about whether it's the end of Strictly Come Dancing, a show I've never been able to get on board with. I used to what did it used to be called in the 70s, guys? Was it just called Come Dancing? Was it called Come Dancing? My nan used to watch it, and didn't it? It was on telly in the 70s and the 80s. I'm pretty sure. I think it's better. It was around back then. Anyway, that's the story. Obviously, that Tess Daly and Claudia Winkleman are leaving. Is that the end? Are they abandoning ship before it sinks, or what? I just find it also. I mean, I find showbiz fake. I hate the fakery of showbiz, but then the extra added fakery of dancing showbiz just does my nine. It's like musical theatre. Nothing against musical theatre. Lee's a huge fan of musical theatre. I love a good musical now and then. But my God, it's exhausting being around a lot of musical theatre students, I can tell you that. So we're going to talk about all of those things. But meanwhile, how is everyone else? What are you all up to this weekend? What's happening for you this weekend? We won't hang around on this for too long, because if you are listening on podcasts, you don't give a damn. Come Dancing. It was called Come Dancing, wasn't it, Ellery? Lady Speeder on Me Too, Mark. Elaine Denning, gossip about Claudia having her own chat show, produced by the same people who do Graham Norton. Top in too invested in Celebrity Traitors. Is that still running? Is it still on? Is it still going? I think so. Is it? I don't know. To be brutally honest with you, we were going to get into it. We didn't get into it. And it's one of those shows. I don't know if anyone else finds this. If you're not on board with it right at the beginning, you miss it. Is that right? You get behind really quickly. I think that's the kind of my frustration with it. Claire Willison, haven't watched Strictly for years, but do adore Claudia, and it won't be the same without her. Chin chin. Well, on that note, let's jump into the serious shit, and then let's move towards the lighter stuff. You haven't lost broadcast or transmission. I'm just having a sip of my coffee. Okay, so as I say, the big news today is, unfortunately, this sex offender who sparked summer riots seen boarding London-bound train after release error, say police. A release error. Can you actually believe this? It's just Epping migrant sex offender freed after prison blunder. Asylum seeker seen on the streets of Chelmsford after being handed £76 and allowed to leave jail by accident. We now have 3 police forces who are scouring the country for him. It's just absolutely unbelievable. Just bear with me 1 second. 3 police forces are scouring the country for him. He was meant to be sent to an immigration detention centre to be deported within days, but was accidentally freed. I mean, what kind of... Oh, Fun Times Forever 7709. You think accidentally on purpose to stir the pot? Here's some footage filmed, I think, near Chelmsford. Check this out. Allegedly, it's the guy with the bag, and it does look like a bag of stuff you would have given to you as you were sort of came out of custody. It's very well shot. That's the pavement at the moment you're looking at. There he is in the grey joggers and the grey top. Doesn't look at all like he doesn't feel he shouldn't be released. Maybe he was confused. Maybe he was literally, maybe because he was so yeah. Because of course I saw that and I thought, why does he look so easy with himself? Why is he so sort of comfortable? But maybe from his perspective, he was told he could go. It's just, it's all chronic. It's just, I mean, you could not make this shit up. So Hadish, his name is Hadish Gerbaslazi Kabatu, pronounced that incorrectly, was meant to be sent to an immigration centre for deportation after assaulting a 14-year-old girl, a woman. So the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, said he was now at large in London and the Metropolitan Police were assisting. You can make this shit up. Intentional. Wow, that's interesting. So lots of you feel this was intentional. Intentional by who? By who? What? By the police? By the security people, magistrate people, customs people that were letting him go? Do you think? Really? To stir it all up? Really? He was meant to be sent to an immigration centre, detention centre, to then be deported, but was freed by mistake. Essex police are now urgently trying to find him. They could confirm that he was seen catching a train. It doesn't look like he's on the run, though, does it? He was seen catching a train at Chelmsford railway station at 12:41. But what would they gain from doing it? I don't. Well, Victoria Moore. I mean, I did post on one of my stories. I mean, it's the kind of thing that will. Isn't this kind of manna from heaven for reform? It's like, hey, two-tier justice, and wanted guys just being freed. But he wasn't freed by the system. This is accidental. It is suspicious, says Fun Times Forever. He's not being remotely careful, is it? I mean, I think there are two things at work here. He shouldn't be out. He shouldn't be released. But perhaps the language barrier, perhaps cultural misunderstanding, and perhaps because he was given his bag and said, you go, he just did what he was told. Maybe he was asking, how do I get back to Ethiopia? I mean, you never know, maybe. A statement from the force said, we were informed by the prison service at 12:57 p.m. yesterday, of an error this morning surrounding the release of an individual. As a result of that, we've launched a search operation to locate them and are working with partner agencies. It's just, what are we like? What are we like? Daily Mail, obviously, here, sex attacker is at large in London after being accidentally freed from prison. How do you accidentally? Well, I suppose you accidentally because you haven't read the paperwork, maybe, or something like that. I think in a weird way, this feels so spectacularly like an own goal for someone that even the right-wing media doesn't quite know how to kind of position this. They're like, this has got to work for us, but we don't quite know how to kind of report this. That's how it feels. So yeah, we've got that. Prince Andrew, everyone's banging on about Prince Andrew's lodge. This is really fucking me off now. I don't know about anyone else. Prince Andrew in talks to leave Royal Lodge. Buckingham Palace cranking up pressure on King's brother to voluntarily give up his 30-room residence. I tell you why this is annoying me. We're all talking about lodges. We're all talking about rooms. We're all talking about peppercorn rents. We're all talking about his stupid Frogmore March, whatever. But everyone is just, it's like we're having such a parochial, I talked about it briefly in the week. It's like we're having such a sort of, it's like, oh, what are the kind of administrative details of Prince Andrew's living arrangement? Hang on a minute. The story is that there are countless young children who were abused. This is the Epstein story, which has been given a curiously kind of, it could be in the Royal Lodge. I hope he's leaving the Royal Lodge. He's in a 30-room building. What is it going to be? Taxpayers' money. I mean, it's what he did. It's not, isn't it weird? Does anyone else find there's a sort of discordance and disconnect between actually the severity of what's coming out in Virginia Giuffre's book, his complicitness in supporting, enabling, and behaving, it would seem, allegedly suggested by his own emails alongside a wanted and convicted paedophile. But all the papers are going about, he's paying £20 a week for a lodge. He's actually playing a peppercorn. Fergie's not going to be talked to. Take away his title. It's all fucking set dressing. What he needs to do, like a number of people, like Marjorie Taylor Greene in America has said, he needs to he clearly knows more than he's ever told anyone. That so-called work of journalistic genius, Emily Maitlis's interview, that got nothing other than just lies, 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 and she was surprised that he was lying. Sorry, I can't sign up to that one. What a load of hang on, he needs to be asked a few more questions. What's going on? Why aren't the press talking about that? He's going to voluntarily going to give that 30-room lodge. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, so the papers have got that. A story I didn't touch upon. We're going to get to some of the other ones in a minute. We're going to get to Gaza and America and Strictly. But one of the other stories in the week that I didn't touch upon was the Oxford Union. Has anyone heard about this? The Oxford Union? Is it the Oxford Union? Is that the? No, it's not the Oxford Union. Freedom of what's the Oxford? Oh, what's it called? Let me just find the story. Oxford Union. It was the Oxford Union's recently elected president, George Aberonier. Have you heard of him? The guy who kind of posted wrongly, sort of LOL and let's get it on once Charlie Kirk was shot. He was the head of the Oxford Union, one of the world's leading debate fellowships or groups. He was the president. I think he was he was going to become the president. Anyway, when Charlie Kirk, who he debated against at the Oxford Union, there he is debating against. Let's get rid of that stupid coffee moaning thing there, shall we? There he is on the right, debating with Charlie Kirk. When the news broke that Charlie Kirk had been shot, he posted sort of on social media. Messages saying "lol" and yeah, let's get on, let's do it, and quite rightly, I think he apologized after the event. He then encouraged a vote to see whether he could still be president, and he was not voted in, but he refused to leave. But anyway, old Michael Gove here says Oxford is on its knees to every left-wing god. No wonder students cheer the death of their political opponents. So once again, I just want to say something, because there was this other guy, wasn't there, at Cambridge, who was chanting that something about Zionists in the ground. And one of the things I really want to say is this. Just because you are on one side or the other of this kind of debate or whatever, there is still kind of morally right or wrong behavior. And yeah, and I can't stand Michael Gove, but here's my problem with Michael Gove. It's not about agreeing with Michael Gove. I just think sometimes there's, and I would say the same was the case for actually Charlie Kirk. He never curtailed the severity of what he had to say. He just said what he felt. He said what he believed, and a lot of it was very offensive. Doesn't mean that doesn't mean no one deserves to get killed. And equally, this guy, who politically is probably in the same ballpark as, say, me, was an idiot for saying and doing what he did, and he shouldn't have done it. And then when he calls an election and then doesn't agree with the kind of result, that's even more idiotic. And the guy who sang, I think it was at Cambridge, wasn't it? Who was singing about something, put his eyes in the ground. I watched the footage of him, and I just thought, what an absolute twit. Because it's people like him, and it's comments like this that allow the likes of Michael Gove the breadth of space to maneuver their four-wheel, four-drive pickup into place and go, the left have kind of filtered into everything. Oxford University is the preserve of me and people like me, and Boris Johnson and all likes of that. And what's this young fellow saying? The whole thing must be corrupt. We're allowing in people who aren't like us. So it is distasteful what he said. It was also distasteful what I'd like to say to both this guy, what's his name, George Aberoni, and I'd like to say to the nutter in Cambridge who was singing "Put Those Eyes on the Ground." Are you surprised that you have provided people who want to be able to argue against Palestinian rights, freedom of speech? You've provided them with the most perfect fucking excuse to write pieces like this. It's so annoying. So what I'm trying to say is there can be a lack of kind of cognitive thought or connecting thought or mindfulness about what you say on both sides of the equation, on both sides of the political. So it's not about treading carefully to hide something. It's about just there is stupidity on both sides. And it just annoys me that this guy is giving Gove this, imagine being Michael Gove. You wake up every morning scouring the news for something to support your jaundiced take on the world. And then you've got some muppet like the head of the Oxford Union who just provides it to you easily. Don't give your enemies open goals. That's the thing. Don't give people open goals to kick the footballs into. Peppercorn rent. I think peppercorn rent was literally you'd pay with a peppercorn. I think quite literally at some point. Anyway, I don't know why I thought I'd pull that up. America, is America going to go to war against fucking Venezuela and Colombia? It looks like they might. I mean, what kind of madness are we in? Let's hear from the big orange man himself.
War against these cartels, and Congress is likely to approve of that process. Why not just ask for a declaration of war?
Well, I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay? We're going to kill them. They're going to be like dead. Okay?
We don't need to go to war. We just need to kill people. Again, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because, of course, in terms of Trump's world, it's just these are all bad people. And, yeah, drug dealers are bad people. But it's kind of like there seems to be no sort of due process. And now there's fucking aircraft carriers in the Caribbean, essentially. He does feel a little bit like, he's not happy with Colombia. He's not happy with Venezuela. And let's not forget, all of those countries are extraordinarily oil rich, aren't they? Or, energy rich, gas, oil, all the rest of it. Say it like it is, Donald. I mean, he does. The one thing you got to give Donald, he talks a load of shit. It often doesn't make sense, but at least you know where you stand in his nonsensical nonsense. So there you go. That's old Trumpy boy on that. But I do just want to show you. Oh yeah, here's some slightly chilling news. Steve Bannon, do you remember, a huge MAGA advocate supporter, campaigning for Donald Trump. If you've got any doubts that Donald Trump might run for a third presidency, a third tenure, check this little bit of interview out. And also, I didn't realize Steve Bannon was fully on the kind of religious fucking bandwagon. Listen to this.
Trump is going to be president in 28, and people just ought to get accommodated with that.
So what about the 22nd Amendment?
There's many different alternatives. At the appropriate time, we'll lay out what the plan is, but there's a plan. We had longer odds in 16 and longer odds in 24 than we got in 28. And President Trump will be the president of the United States, and the country needs him to be president of the United States. We have to finish what we started. Trump is a vehicle. I know this will drive you guys crazy, but he's a vehicle of divine providence. He's an instrument. He's very imperfect. He's not churchy, not particularly religious, but he's an instrument of divine will. And you can tell this of how he's pulled this.
He's a vehicle. Donald Trump is a vehicle of divine providence. Is that a roundabout way of saying he thinks he's God? Or he's saying he's like the Pope, which, let's face it, Donald Trump has also said of himself. Didn't he post himself in a papal outfit? I mean, this is frightening. So, and he also said there's a plan. Steve Bannon said there's a plan. So America, what the fuck have you done? How have you let this man in? What's going to happen? I mean, they say that America's going to be bankrupt by 2030. So you kind of begin to think, well, they've got to get themselves out of that kind of cul-de-sac, don't they? Apparently, strict translation of cul-de-sac from French to English is bum of bag, I think. Really? A vehicle of divine providence. I mean, Christ, is that really the description of Donald Trump? It's quite something, isn't it? Oh, bollocks. I just lost something which I wanted to show you. Let me get rid of Steve Bannon. In other news, moving on, let's go to Gaza. The situation in Gaza is the bombing has, the Americans are there. They are babysitting. They've got troops there. Every single member of the American government is going over there to kind of manage BB. They're babysitting. It's all babysitting. But the news on the ground is significant. Updates: Gaza humanitarian crisis is unchanged as Israel keeps restricting aid. Reports Al Jazeera and Middle East Eye, none of the Western media covering this. Palestinians are digging through rubble to find what's left of homes and loved ones. UNRWA sounds the alarm on a coming winter season for Palestinians in Gaza. On a beach in Tel Aviv, someone's created this sort of mural, if you like, in the beach of Donald Trump thinking of Bibi Netanyahu and going, oh, liability. And I do think that there is an element to the situation at the moment where they are babysitting him. They are definitely babysitting Netanyahu. And they're trying to make sure that this fragile peace doesn't fall apart. We talked about it a lot yesterday. We'd like to think this is for the better good of the Palestinians. But interestingly, whilst Donald Trump says, don't worry about the West Bank, they're not going to take the West Bank. It's all well and good saying it, but they're doing it. They're still doing it. They're in there. It's happening. It's ongoing. The annexation is slow. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if behind the scenes, America have said, look, you can achieve all your goals, Israel. You can get all your greater Israel if you just slow down on the pedal. Don't go at it so voraciously. Don't be so impatient. Look what you've done in Gaza. And the weird thing is, and the great thing is for Israel, of course, is they don't have to, look at what's happening in the West Bank, and they don't have Hamas there. They don't have Hamas to blame. They can't keep saying it's all about Hamas, but they're still doing it. So this fragile peace, they're still bombing, they're still killing, they're still stopping humanitarian aid. I'm just going to show you some pictures from an Al Jazeera report this morning. These images here. These are Israeli protesters blocking Gaza aid still. So, the desire to starve the population of Gaza is still very, very, very high on some Israelis' agendas. Let's keep starving Arab people. The march came today, says this woman, to block aid trucks. We arrived to block the crossing of aid trucks. We're blocking the aid trucks for Hamas that broke the ceasefire deal and breached it and killed 2 of our soldiers during the ceasefire. That's challenged. That's questionable. I'm calling upon the Prime Minister to go back to fighting them. There wasn't a huge number of them there all wanted to go back to fighting them. So America are very much having to restrain them. And I think I would argue we're at a kind of junction here where, I think I've said it this week, you couldn't destroy the Gaza Strip more than you have. There comes a point where there has to be a quite literal physical endpoint of destruction. You can't, because there's nothing more to kind of destroy. The Hamas situation is a kind of It's a difficult one because, as you see from this incoming headline here, Hamas are trying to kind of exert some control as Palestinian factions say but Hamas and various other groups, in Gaza, have in principle agreed to this technocratic organization taking responsibility for Gaza. There's pressure to make this to allow the Gaza Strip to be run by something like the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization. But the soundings are that Hamas and various other factions within Gaza are agreeing in principle, as long as there's a strong Arabic influence on whatever that organizing force is. So however one tries to spin this, however much you're right, guys, to say two Palestinians were killed today. The control, the constriction, the oppression, the occupation, the starvation is still there. Apparently the rubble in Gaza, the fear around the rubble in Gaza is that the amount of asbestos that has been pumped into the atmosphere is the consequential deaths of just rubble poisoning is quite staggering. And just to give you some perspective on that, when 9/11 happened, obviously there were approximately 3,000 people who died in the actual sort of impact, the acute. That more people have died since 9/11 from inhalation of fumes and debris and rock and all of the kind of stuff that goes into building buildings. And so, and of course, in Gaza, you've got, thank you very much for reminding us, Claire Willison, you've got unexploded bombs, you've got booby traps, you've got mortar, you've got all sorts of shrapnel, you've got still, you've got dereliction falling apart. I mean, it's one huge derelict, littered with kind of weaponry and danger. So the dying doesn't stop, the oppression doesn't stop, the occupation doesn't stop, and the devastation hasn't stopped. And in fact, now there's just going to be a slow creep of there being none of the preconditions for life to kind of, sustain itself, or for life to be able to enable itself to carry on. And I think America will be saying this to, asbestos is just awful. America will be saying this, will be whispering this into Israel's ear, the regime of Israel's ear. Just take your foot off the gas pedal, because you can still make, life is still unbearable enough for the Palestinians. And that's what we now need to keep our eyes and ears on. And we do need to get on board with whatever system we can get in place that is as favorable to the Palestinians as possible. I don't feel Tony Blair is that person. I feel there has to be an infinitely more Arabic sensibility to the Palestinians deciding their own fate. And I think Palestinians have to be involved in it. The idea that the Palestinians can't be involved in their future is quite shocking, and can only therefore be seen as a kind of imperialist land grab, which is happening in the West Bank. It's like, we're not making this shit up. When you say, oh, this is just about Israel wanting to grab Gaza, and people go, oh, yeah, I think you're overstating. Well, just look at the West Bank. This is what's happening in the West Bank. I mean, we've been laboring this point. What we're about to step towards now, in terms of the campaign for Palestinian freedom, is we're stepping towards the same conditions or preconditions that were in existence prior to October the 7th, but they're infinitely worse because the Gaza Strip has been decimated and yet more of the West Bank has been occupied. So these conditions are not survivable at this point. No, not in any long-term way. And all they have to do, all Israel and America have to do, is sit back. And as more and more people in the Gaza Strip feel more and more desperate, struggle to kind of find the shoots of a new life, more and more people will be likely to kind of take whatever offer lands their way when this spurious American, British, Israeli sanctioned group says, well, this could be your future. And if you're a parent of family, and you've lost relatives, and you've got no business, and you've got virtually no food or clean water, you're not going to take it. Of course you're going to take it. So just because the bombing has stopped, it doesn't mean the genocide has stopped. It also doesn't mean for many of those people who keep going, why is everyone not on board with the ceasefire? Why is not everyone more excited about peace? What you could ask, by the same standards, why were so many Jewish people not jumping around and dancing with joy after World War II? It doesn't work like that. Once a people has gone through a devastating experience of such cataclysmic proportions, you're hard pushed to say to everyone, I think you should be a bit grateful now. It's stopped. There's no gratitude to be had here. It's like, how the fuck do we help those remaining in Gaza to rebuild their lives when, unfortunately, you know that the future for the Gaza Strip is already happening in the West Bank. So any Gaza Strip without Hamas Palestinians know that they will be subjected to the same constriction, constraint, control, apartheid, and erosion of freedoms that's already happening in the West Bank without the obvious enemy of Hamas. So forgive everyone for not going, oh, this is an exciting prospect. Really excited about the bombing stopping and us now being free to be controlled again without an army. I mean, so as the right-wing media, as the mainstream media, as Keir Starmer, as all the leaders and the politicians urge us to be more grateful, urge us to get on board with this, urge the Palestinians to be grateful. Just remember all of that. Just remember all of that. Oh, where are we at? What time are we? Okay, 11 o'clock. I just want to play a couple of clips. These are really, again, one of the things across the week is there are many clips that sometimes aren't appropriate or aren't right to kind of play because we've moved on in the conversation. But the Israeli AIPAC lobby control of America is an enormous overarching problem. And unless that stops, changes, or diminishes, Israel will forever and a day, regardless of this genocide currently being put on pause in an extreme way, regardless of where we're at now, America and Israel will continue in their overreach in the region. And the only way that will change is if AIPAC and Israel's influence in America lessens. But I just want to show you a few clips. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene talking to Tucker Carlson.
Jewish people. This is about the government of Israel. This is about their military. And this is about them demanding, nonstop demanding, America, pay attention to Israel, do what Israel wants, fight Israel's wars, and pay for them. And if you don't, then we're going to come after anyone and everyone that gets in the way of that. And if you're wondering why people are talking about primarying me, well, it's because I don't take any money from AIPAC. I've called for AIPAC to be registered under FARA. I've introduced amendments to defund all of our American tax dollars from going to Israel every single year, billions and billions of dollars every single year. But I've also done that for a slew of other countries. It's not just Israel. It's a whole bunch of other countries, Egypt, Ukraine, you name it. I'm just like, enough of the foreign aid. But if you're willing to step out and you're actually to say, hey, we're not MAGA, we're MAGA. And there's a major difference there. Then there is a group of people that come at you with everything they have. And that's what they're doing. They've got bots attached to my account that load my comment sections with ridiculous lies. They've got paid social media influencers that literally get paid by Israel or by Israel-aligned donors to attack me constantly every single day. But let me tell you something, Tucker. People are too smart nowadays, and that's what's great. People have had it, and I think they learned a lot of lessons through COVID. They learned how to see through the lies and read through the propaganda. And there may be this like little flurry of attack on me that exists on X, but out in the real world, that's not what I feel. And those are not the comments that I get.
Who agrees? I mean, one of the things I hope does come out of this is that you can't put the genie back in the bottle. I mean, I think what America, what our government, what the mainstream media is trying to do. Thank you so much, Julie, for gifting a membership to someone will receive an anonymous membership gift from Julie. Very kind of you. One of the things that the kind of the West or those, the mainstream media are trying to do and the governments of the West are trying to do is try and get us past the inconvenience of the last 2 years, the awfulness of everything that's happened. They're happy to keep talking about the awfulness of October the 7th, which it was, but they really don't want to talk about the 2 years of genocidal madness and the language and the hostility and the removal, even at the highest echelons of the Israeli government, of any pretense of a two-state solution. That's all vaporized. They want to move us all on. And my hope is, and I say my hope insofar as it's only in hoping this is the case, that I think the genuine freedom of the Palestinians will happen, is that have the vast majority of people seen through it? Has Israel gone so far in this latest iteration of their oppression and apartheid, devastation, genocide? Have they gone so far that people won't forget? Or what do you think, guys? Do you think people will forget, or will people seek to normalize? I mean, when you hear the stories of like the UAE and various Gulf states talking about the terms by which they will normalize relationships with Israel, my heart sinks a little bit, not because I don't want them to normalize, but they haven't negotiated much in return. You've got to drive a hard bargain with Israel after they've committed and conducted the atrocities that they've conducted. The West Bank is a desperate situation. It's ongoing. It's evolving. It's still the same. And yet, you know, the UAE, yes, will normalize relations if, you know, this happens and if they stop and if you allow. And you're just like, there's almost a speedy desire for normalization rather than holding to account. Do you think the vast majority, like in America, there was recent polls, I think CNN did, was 58% prior to October the 7th just had their sympathies resided with Israel alone in everything. After the genocide, it's now a majority of 1% believe in Palestine, a swing of about 60%. Surely this can't be forgotten, says Steph Schultz. Ophidia 26. I think many of the people have seen and won't forget, but I have no faith in politicians anymore. I mean, you know, the Israeli government has already postponed the decision even on whether the international media are now allowed into the Gaza Strip. They're still delaying. They haven't even said no, but they're delaying the decision to say yes or no. Charlene Evans, until we all stand together and fight this, they will get away with whatever they want. People are waking up, and I think it's coming. That's why they keep trying to divide us and distract us. I mean, again, I agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think something major did happen with COVID, where there was a complete dissonance and disconnect between what the government was telling us to do, what they thought we should do, how they were controlling us, and what they really thought of us and what was really going on, and how they were spinning narratives to kind of, you know, I hope, and we talked briefly, me and Nadia, on Coffee Moaning on Friday about the change in the political frame, political setup in this country, really. I hope that, and I'm saying this even for reform, but I hope the lurch towards reform and the lurch towards the Green and your party and what have you is a return to actually having beliefs, whether you agree with them or don't agree with them, having beliefs, having strong opinions, having values. Because I think the thing that's happened with our two main parties, Conservatives and Labour, and what's happened with the Republicans and the Democrats in America, they appear to have no values that they stick to, which is why, it's so potentially, Mamdani in New York, it's so potentially rich and exciting that someone like him could get in. Lisa Christoulou, you can't do that, Mark. You can't do what, Mark? You can't do what? We need new governments who aren't controlled by Israel. Keir Starmer was Israel's choice. This will be written in history. He has ruined his country forever. More, Elaine Denning, who? Netanyahu. Lots of people want to and will try to forget, but thousands of people like us need to make sure they never forget, says Linda Stevenson. Don't get me started, says Jen Nana, on how they've made basic human rights conditional. That's interesting. Look at this. Humanitarian Lee. My husband is avoiding the subject and he gets defensive. It's really weird. We can't have values. Oh, I see, Crystal Lisa, you're being sarcastic. Fiona Hennessy, we need to continue putting pressure on our governments. I email I can never pronounce it, Tausch and Tanais, Prime Minister and Deputy, every week about the Occupied Territories Bill, and I ask for email response. Yes, people won't forget, but people necessarily, and through no evil intent, move on. I mean, I'm interested in that comment that you made there, humanitarianly. My husband avoids the subject and gets to... I wonder why your husband does get defensive, because I think he's symptomatic of quite a few people who do get defensive. People get really annoyed almost if you don't shut up about it. I mean, I've heard Nadia sort of people said to her, are you a bit addicted to this? Oh, hang on a minute, you can't be addicted to right and wrong. You just need to keep pressing the point, and there's waves and there's ebbs and flows to when you need to punch that message a bit more forcibly. There are other moments where just for fucking sanity, you need to retreat and just kind of take stock and then come back out fighting. Imagine what a different world, Klebella says, it would be with Zoran Mamdani and Zach Polanski in charge. I know. I mean, could these be the changes we're all waiting for? Linda Stevenson says, my hubby is the same. Humanitarianly, he gets a bit angry. But it's so important. It's weird, isn't it? Well, I'll tell you what, I think I do know what that is. It's probably because fundamentally, I mean, he's your husband, you love him, he loves you, and you are in touch with what's wrong with this. Probably because fundamentally, on a level, he knows it's wrong. And maybe he doesn't know how to, not necessarily articulate it from an intellectual place, but he doesn't know how to, you know how, let me try and use it another way. I remember when I was a kid, I jumped off a bus too early, and rather than and I nearly got slammed into a wall and my mum hit me. Sorry, Mum. And I remember at the time thinking, oh, that was really weird. But her argument was she was so shocked, she needed to make sure I would never do it again. So she hit me. But I mean, I was already kind of shocked. But anyway, some people, it doesn't seem like the right response. But I think some people respond like that. Some people respond angrily to things when they know that there's something wrong at heart with it, because they don't know perhaps what to do about it. They don't know how to they don't know how to deal with it in their own heart. And this isn't excusing people who don't want to get on board with it for because they just don't care. I mean, I just posted something silly about me and Nads on my reel last night, and I felt guilty. I thought, God almighty, it seems so sort of out of touch to post about anything in life other than, but then I thought, well, no, hang on, mate, you're banging on about this because you believe in this and you feel it and you want to help people kind of rethink things, and you're going to carry on doing that. You're allowed to kind of come up for air every now and then. Ophidia, fear, maybe it is fear. Maybe it is fear. It's the narrative we've all been brainwashed with humanitarianly and it's an inner conflict inside of him, maybe, and an inner conflict, but also maybe another little part of it. And this, I'm only saying this as a man, maybe and I think it's all right sometimes to say as men and women we have and deal with things differently. Maybe part of it is a little bit of shame that one hasn't quite got it, or that one doesn't quite know what to do about it. Because sometimes I think, you want to be able to fix it, and it's so fucking complicated in terms of the emotions it throws up. Don't ever fucking accept the politics of it are not complicated at all. But it's complicated in terms of, you're right, if you've inherited this mainstream narrative. I mean, me and Nadia tried to be as honest as possible. We were talking to our girls about this the other day. We held positions and opinions and thoughts about things in the past. Like, I made the biggest mistake ever. I didn't buy into the anti-Semitism slur against Jeremy Corbyn. I just moved away from him in the Labour Party when he was unclear about Brexit. But I was frustrated that I was articulating a desire for him to go because of Brexit. So I felt like I'd been kind of, I hadn't looked at the mission to remove him under the spurious argument of anti-Semitism at the time. I wasn't as awake back then. And I do think, as Marjorie Taylor Greene says, we're all waking up considerably. I want to play you another clip.
Somehow allowed to just destroy a captive people that don't have a military of their own to defend themselves. There was one poll recently that had, they said right before October 7th, in America, do you sympathize with Israel or Palestine, was plus 48 for Israel.
It was the Israelis by 48 points. Look at this shift. Now we're talking about the Palestinians by a point. I look back at every single poll that I could possibly find since this question was first asked in the 1980s. This is the first time ever.
And then the latest poll, it was +1 for the Palestinians. You would be hard pressed to find a 50-point collapse in any issue. Like, just imagine, Piers, what happened here? I mean, and the reason why this shift is happening is very simply because what Israel's doing to the Palestinians is so indefensible. The relationship between Israel and the United States of America is too bizarre, and it does not make sense in America's interest. And number 3, this type of propaganda just doesn't work on people. You can't sit here and say you're the most moral army in the world as a response to my point that you just denied food to an entire civilian population because you claim us is slow-rolling dead remains. I'm not saying dead remains don't matter, but we're talking about real, alive babies.
I was talking about that the other day. We had more intimate emotional heartbreak and emphasis put on, admittedly, the important returning of the remains of hostages and the time duration of Hamas dealing with that than we were giving focus for the death and starvation and dying of real life people at the same time. I just want to go back again here. Humanitarianly, it's really interesting conversation. I agree with you a little about Shane, but he called me racist names like terrorist support for bin Laden, etc. right after October the 7th, 2023. Let me just say something about that. I think I would forgive him for that straight after October the 7th. I think me and Andrew have talked about this before. For many people who were totally unaware of the preconditions of what was going on in Palestine, in Gaza, in the West Bank, and in the Arab world prior to October the 7th, and were unaware of the many massacres, the many wars, the many erosions of rights, the control, the occupation, the apartheid, etc., etc. If you weren't aware of that, and why should everyone be aware of that? Because many people weren't until that moment. I think I can see why it's a bit extreme to call you those things, but I could see why people would run that way. I have a huge amount of, I don't mean time, but I can excuse people who in the immediate aftermath of October the 7th, feeling that Israel had a right to defend themselves, not understanding the context, not understanding the history, thinking, fucking hell, hang on a minute, this is fucking awful. What's happened? We ourselves said, Israel had a moment where they had, the capacity to self-defend in some way. It was understandable because of something so shocking that happened. We're not going to get into the details of how October the 7th happened, the alleged allegations that, of knowledge Egypt. We talked about it. Egypt notified Israel days before that this was potentially going to happen. There's lots of question marks there, but you've got to be careful talking about that. It's become a little bit COVIDitis on social media, that topic, which is clever, isn't it? Because of course it means it prevents people from being able to talk about it. But without the privilege of context, I can understand how your husband would have gone that route. And so I think there's space, and we can think of quite a few people actually, even in the public eye, whose emphasis and understanding shifted away from a blind defense and justification of Israel's policy in Gaza towards a realization of, oh, fucking hell, hang on a minute. This has been going on for years. This is symptomatic of a bigger problem. It's more complicated historically, and now it's really simple. They're committing a genocide. So, do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Oh God. So, final topic. Sorry. Let's get to the meeting. I mean, I'm sure you've all been here for this. Is it the end of Strictly? You know what? I mean, the only reason I have a fondness for this show are Tess and Claudia fleeing the Strictly sinking ship. Insiders say falling ratings, series of damaging scandals are behind the decision of the longtime host to leave. I would argue that all the damaging scandals are what's kept viewers watching. Wouldn't anyone else agree? I think isn't Strictly like any sort of IP or brand? Isn't it when there's controversy that suddenly people are like, oh, let's watch it? I couldn't give a flying monkey's jollop about this, if I'm brutally honest. But what I do, I know my mum likes it. And so for that, I hope it doesn't, because I know my mum really loves it. She gets really involved. It's nice escapist fun. She likes the dancing. I find all the kind of, artificial grins and the pretend booing and the people who can't dance. I mean, I preferred it. Whenever I've enjoyed it in the past, it's when people who genuinely can't dance to begin with suddenly can dance. But really, it feels... I mean, again, I've done it a disservice by immediately coming off the back of such serious global concerns into something as ephemeral as Strictly. It's important that we all have escapism. It's important that we all have the capacity, the space, and the facility to be able to just be light. And I think social media allows for that. I think, in fact, I was saying to Nads the other day, it's really important that as an advocate for Palestine, she posts the silliness that she used to indulge in, because actually, you're going to reach more people, because when people come to watch Nadia's buttocks bouncing around for some reason, in a Kim Kardashian something or other, when she then posts about the humanitarian situation, it will maybe strike a chord with more people than normal. So Strictly, for me, sits in that category of, it's just ephemeral, incidental fun. Personally, couldn't give a fuck. But I know everyone's talking about it, so there we go. I like it, but it's not talent, it's popularity. What do you guys feel? Strictly has worked very well due to the format formula, says Gabrielle, not changing of the years. People like the traditions of the show, right? Yeah, see, it's the traditions of the show that I hate. But you see, they were hardwired into me at the age of 7 at my nan's hip. Now, she would stand there watching Come Dancing from the ballroom at Blackpool. I'd be like, this is so boring. It's so boring. I said, Nan, why are they all smiling like synchronized swimmers? Oh, that's stupid. It's like The thing I don't understand about those grins, why do synchronized swimmers and ballroom dancers grin or smile in a rictus fashion when we all know, and they know we know, it's not a real grin? I'd have more interest in them if they looked kind of grief-stricken or heartbroken, or like, I don't know, they were worried their ankle was going to turn. Cheshire Cats, it's all so fake. But that seems to be... I'll tell you what, it's worse than that. I find it vaguely creepy. I found it when my nan took me to the Blackpool Ballroom, you know, under the tower. I found it really creepy. I don't know why. Ballrooms are the kind of places... I won't go there. It's the 70s. You know what I was going to say. Let's not go there. And Donald Trump loves a fucking ballroom. I'm going to build one of the biggest ballrooms in the world. I've never been to Blackpool, but I want a ballroom. By the way, on that, I don't think it's a ballroom. I think it's a bunker. That's what I think. Anyway, guys, lots of love. Thank you for joining me for that incredibly odd journey through serious to total silliness at the end. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the notification bell. And do stick with us. In 40 minutes' time at midday, God only knows what's going to erupt in our kitchen, but Lee Peart's going to be here. He off the telly now. Lee Peart's going to be here. Dina's going to be here. Nadia's going to be here, cooking up a storm. I think there could be a Black & Decker drill involved at some point as well, I think. Anyway, see you shortly. Thanks for all of your comments and